In order to have a compound conduct electricity, what we need to have happen is we need to have charges be free to move. And the nature of what the charged particle is depends a little bit more on the compound that is doing the conducting of electricity. So, for example, if we have a metal, those charged particles that are free to move are electrons. And we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail when we talk about the structure of a metal and how the electrons behave inside the metal. If we have an ionic compound in the solid state has a regular pattern of positives and negatives, and they are not free to move. When solid. However, if I dissolve this in water, we have something like solid Na breaking into positive sodium ions and negative chlorine ions. And these ions can do the work of the conduction of electricity. And this will be true in either the liquid state, so like molten salt, or in the aqueous state, dissolved in water. And therefore, these things can conduct electricity in that situation. So suppose I have a container of salt water and I immerse a battery in it. And I try to conduct electricity across the solution. What I find is that rather than electrons moving from one pole to the other, it would be the chloride ions doing the work of carrying the negative charge on behalf of the solution. If I want to talk about the conduction of electricity of a metal, I need to look at the model of a solid metal. And this is called the electron C model. And in the electron C model, what we have is we have positive ions that represent most of the atom. And these things are not free to move. But then we also have these delocalized electrons, which are free to move. If this were a good example of this would be potassium metal, where each potassium is a positive one, and that would represent each one of these fixed into a fixed location in space. And then each one of those metals, this is the ion that goes with it. And it's not held very strongly because metals have low ionization energies. And as a result, these electrons are free to move through the structure.